Morning. Fine. So new siman shin nun ches din eze mekomis hanikroim mukafim ladira. We're going to discuss today various types of enclosures which are considered enclosed for residential use. So kol hekuf, says the Mechaber Sif Aleph. Kol hekuf shelo hukuf ladira. Any enclosure which is not enclosed for residential use, kagoin ganois, gardens or pardesim, orchards or burgenin huts, she'enam asuyim el lishmer b'seichan, which are there just for, the watchman sits in it. Asru chachom letalta b'seicha yosim me'arba amas imhu yosim misosayim. If the area is bigger than 2 saw, which we'll discuss exactly what that means, then Chazal restricted you from carrying more than 4 amas. But if it's sosayim or less, shehushir shivim amo va'arbo tfachim al shivim amo va'arbo tfachim, which is the full area of 70 2/3 of an amo. 4 tfachim is 2/3 of an amo, so 70 2/3 by 70 2/3. Then mutal taltal b'kulei. Then you're allowed to carry in it. So the general rule is that when you've got a large area, if it's enclosed for residential use, then there's no limit. It's actually machlokes in the Mishnah in Eruvin, but we pass like Rabbi Kiva, who says that for residential use you can carry as much as you want. If it's non-residential use, then you're limited. It can't be bigger than 2,000 square amas, and if it is, then you can only carry 4 tfachim. And that area of sosayim, the Mechaber says, bein shehu meruba, bein shehu ogel, whether it doesn't make a difference what shape it is, whether it's square, whether it's circle, a orach cotton, or it's rectangle, it's longer than it is wide. Or bavad, so long as it's not too long and narrow. Or bavad shelo yehi orach yosim mishnayim berachba, so long as the length is not twice the width. Amma achas by even 1 amma. V'im hukuf l'dira, but if it's surrounded for residential use, afidu yesh bekama milin mutal taltal b'kulei, then you can carry in the entire thing. Okay, so that's the general rule, the important background, that when you have an area which is enclosed for residential use, then it can be as big as you want. That's one big residential area and you can carry no problem. If, however, it's enclosed but not for residential use, for example, an orchard, a field, these sort of things, then if it's more than 2,000 amas, you're limited to only carrying dalad amas. You can't carry more than that. But if it's less than 2,000 amas, then you can. Okay, let's say the Mishnah Berurah till there. Sif Cotton Aleph, Ledira. Diras Odom B'Tashmishab, for residential use, for you or your kalim, or whatever, for your usage. Kagoin Ganos Pardesim. But if it's non-residential, for example, gardens or orchards, Shemakifim Oisom Rak Lishmeres Aperes, that you put a fence around it just so that you can watch the fruit, Fazram Shevaseichen, that they're sort of secure, Huadin Karpaf, and so too an enclosure, Shehu Hekav Godel Chutz Le'ir Lahachnicham Eitzim La'itza, it's like a storehouse of some sort, or Burgenin, Sukas Shomrim Shebasodes, it's a shed or a hut for Shomrim in a field. She'enan Asuyin, which are not there for residential use. She'enan Asuyin El Lishma Peseichen, only to guard. Ratzalema Afal Gav the Sukazu Nasis Lishivas Hashem, even though he's residing in it and it is for residential use, it's really just there so that you can, it's like a watch hut, that I can watch the area in front of me. It's not considered a choshev residence. It's considered like orchards and gardens, even if it's covered with a roof. Nami lo machshavas dira. If you look at footnote 3, he says, what if the guard is there day and night and is there the whole time? Says the footnote 3, he's literally there day and night. He doesn't go home. He's there for longer periods. Then that's considered residential use already. However, that's not ideal. I'm there because of my work, or no, it's not really a proper residence. So that's machlokes Mishnah Berurah Chazon Ish. Okay. Sif Cotton Hay, Osru Chachamim. So, if you've got a residential area which is enclosed, then you can carry as much as you want. It's no problem. If, however, it's not mukaf ladira, it's not a residential area, it's a field, an orchard, or something like that, then Osru Chachamim the Chachomim prohibited you to carry Yosem Arba Amas. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Hay, Osru Chachomim, Da'afal Gav, the Minatayra called Mukav Mechitzas Gavaya Asara. That really Minatayra, if it's got mechitzas which are taller than 10 tefachim, Alfa Pishi Rechava Kama Kairim, even though it's very wide, many kur, V'hu Rishus HaYachid Gomor. It's a proper Shayachid, the Mutal Talza Bekulei. Mikol Mokum, Chachomim Osru Behekav Gadol Yosim Beisasayim, Sheiloi Hukavdira. However, Chachomim asked you from carrying in an area which is more than a Beisasayim, which is not for residential use, Shehu Doimek Ktsas Rishus Rabbim the Carmelis, because it looks like a Rishus Rabbim or a Carmelis at least. Sheiloi Talza Bo Yosim Arba Amas, Kamei Rishus Rabbim the Carmelis. Just like there, in a Rishus Rabbim the Carmelis, you can't carry more than Daladamas. Well, so too, in a large area, even though it has mechitzas, the Minat Torah is considered the Rishus Yachid. Since it's not for residential use, it's a bit too similar to Rishus Rabbim the Carmelis, and therefore Chazal prohibited you from carrying more than 4 amas. Shehu Shina, how do we get this share of Sosayim? What's all that about? So the Mishnah, the Mechaber said that it's 70 2/3 amma by 70 2/3 amma. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Vav, the base saw hu chamishim al chamishim. A base saw, one saw, is 50 by 50 ammas. Dahainu bein kulei alpayim v'chomesh meis amma ba'amma reichev, 2,500 square ammas. Or base sosayim, but if you got 2 base saw, hu chamesh alofim amma ba'amma reichev, that's 5,000 square ammas. But kshatasim is there sodem urvas, and if you make the square root of 5,000, if you square it off, hu be'erich shivim amma v'arba tvachim erich al shivim amma v'arba tvachim reichev. It's basically 49 and a bit times 49 and a bit, right? So it's 49 2/3 an amma, but 49 2/3 an amma. That's how we get that. V'arba tvachim. It's actually a little bit more than 2/3 of an amma, than 4 out of 6 tefachim. Kashir etzba be'erich. It's a little bit more than 2/3 of an amma. And we don't mention it because it's a very small amount. But you can include it in the total. And therefore, if technically it's 49 2/3 of an amma, 49 2/3 of an amma, you can carry because it's a bit less than that required amount. Our amas are large, who chamishim v'sholish al chamishim v'sholish. It's actually not 49 2/3, it's actually 53 by 53. Okay. Mutal etalza bekulei, says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Ches, v'somcha chachom b'shezeh. Now where do they get this from? Where do they get this base of Chaim? V'somcha chachom b'shezeh ashir shel chotzer mishkan, because this is the measurement of the chotzer of the Mishkan, shel base of Chaim, which was base of Chaim bekulei. That, and they carried in it. Bein shul meruba. Now that amount, it doesn't make a difference what shape it is. Bein shul meruba v'aklal b'zeh, says Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Tes. Now I didn't know what that word meant, tishberes. So I'm on a WhatsApp group with other Dirshu Magidish Urim, and thankfully not a lot of people knew what it was either. But it seems to be some sort of area measurement. In modern Ivrit, it's like refractions and things like that. I don't know what it means over here, but it means an area measurement of 5,000 square amas. Bein sha'amokum ogul aymuruba ishar tzuros, whether it's square, round, whatever it may be. Ay arich v'katan, or if it's long and narrow. Kugoin shay arich mea. For example, if you've got an area which is 100 amas long, for reichev chamishim and 50 amas wide, shehu oilek k'muruba al ayin arba v'tvachim, which is basically gives you the square amount of 5,000 amas. So long as it's not too long and narrow, i.e., because if it's longer than 100 amas, the kol shu shetach godl af ba'erich lechud, because then it will be too similar to Rish Rabin. And b'mei amma they didn't want to be guys. Because at the end of the day, that is the share of the chotzer of the Mishkan, and therefore that amount we're not going to be geyser against. Amma achas, but if it's longer than it is wide, twice as long as it is wide, even by 1 amma, then it's no good. But less than amma we're not geyser, so it can be 100 by 50, that would be okay. This is all, it's exact. But if the total measurement is less than a base of Chaim, then we're not worried about it. Well, the footnote he brings, the Chazon Ish, is worried about it, but the Mishnah Berurah is not. And even if the length is even if it's long way more than 100 amas, nami mutar l'talta b'kula kol she'mukaf mechitzas. If the total measurement is less than 5,000 amas, we're okay. All right, let me just summarize till then we'll finish off the sif. So again, what are we saying? This is sort of quite important stuff. If you've got a rishus hayochid, it doesn't matter how big it is, you can carry in it. It's got a din of rishus hayochid. And that's only if, however, it's a rishus hayochid for residential use. If it's a rishus hayochid min Torah, for example, it's got mechitzas, but it's this enormous area, but it's not for residential use. For example, a massive field. Think of Kenwood. Or whatever, massive orchards and fields and things like that. It may, I don't know if it does, but it may have a massive fence around it. I mean, Torah it's rishus hayochid, but since it's not for residential use, Chazal say that if it's more than 5,000 square amas, you cannot carry more than 4 amas. Why? Because you might confuse it with a rishus rabim and a karmelis. That's what comes out of this. Fine, and it doesn't make a difference what shape that 5,000 amas is, so long as it's not very long and very narrow, i.e. twice as long as it is narrow, then more than that, then you're okay to carry in it. Okay, let's just finish off. V'yesh says the Ramah, Hagah. V'ayin lekaman simen tof aleph din stam ayoras imukafus l'dira. Check out further on Tof aleph, simen tof aleph, din stam ayoras imukafus l'dira. What about stam ayoras if they are considered mukaf l'dira? So if you look at Mishnah Berurah, Sifkat and Yud Gimel, Pirush, if you've got a wall around the city, if you've got a wall around the city, all likelihood is that is there for residential purposes. You first build the houses, then you build this wall around it. Even though it was built up and then you enclose it with a wall, mahani, that works, like we're going to say in a minute. Okay, back to the Ramah. The stam karpipios shelanu our stump enclosures, mikri mukafas adira. They are called enclosed for residential purposes. To regilim liftach pesach tchila v'achach lehakiv, because that's what we do. That we sort of put an opening and then we enclose it. Says the Mishnah Berurah, the stam karpipio is pirush or pesach habayis pesuch lohem. It's the houses are open up into this area. The regilim. Says the Mishnah Berurah Tesvav, Kavonas Haramah, b'makom she'ein odem zoiche im hakarpifios nivnu kodim abatim or la'acha abatim. People can't remember. Did you build the enclosure before or after the houses were there? Or l'shem tashmish dira. Most of our enclosures were built up after the houses were already there. It's not an absolute rule. It depends on the minhag of that particular place. Okay, back to the Ramah. The penultimate line. Any enclosure which is near your house, mikri hekaf ledira, that is called mukaf ledira, ki daita ilove, because your intention was for that. V'yesh cholkim b'zeh, and others argue with that. Somach lebeisa, says Mishnah Berurah, v'chol shu somach le'ir, mikri somach lebeisa ledezu, because anything which is close to the city is called close to your house for this. Daita ilove, or pashat daf ledezu, dafka b'shebona habayis v'achkach chikiv. That's when you built the house and then you enclose it. For kamash malon da'af al gav deloi posach be lei, even though you didn't open it. Afilu hachi kiven she smucha le'ir harbe, since it's very close to the city. Daite lovi l'tashmish b'tadi v'stama hukav ledira. It's likely it is you used it for residential purposes. V'yesh cholkim b'zeh v'ledezu afilu b'smucha mamish beisa, and therefore according to this opinion, even if it's mamish near your house, kol shle posach le'b'seif hukav, anything which wasn't open and then you enclosed it, mahani v'skima achrenim la'alocha kadeyazu. Okay, so that's the end of Sif Aleph, but that's the gist. It's anything which is for residential purposes can be as big as you want. If it's not for residential purposes, there is a limit of basis or sign. Okay.